I'd like to invite you all to maybe move forward so we can have like all spaces occupied in the front and we have a sense of being like closer, if you feel comfortable with that. No, it's more like so we don't have this empty energy spaces going on. Well, normally I do this standing without a microphone. That's how I prefer to do this, but I'm gonna do it like that. What, sorry? Yeah. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm very grateful for the visible and invisible forces that have supported this work so far. I'm grateful for all the old and new friends, the invitation, and also the voices that came before me and us and have been paving the ways for the process of eco-liberation to happen. So I'm here today joining a conversation that already exists since a really long time. And I am grateful for the work that has been done so far and for the opportunity to be here today. Also grateful for the teachers, those who have supported this path, and also those who have made me question it, even though question it and question myself. Even though I don't believe that's how it's supposed to be, thankfully, I have built a strong, deep listening practice within my heart, so I would always have the opportunity to get back to it when it's being questioned, instead of allowing it to shrink, to fit the narrative of the oppressor. My name is Luïza Luz, pronouns are they, them, and today I'm presenting the book Beneath the Surface, Deep Listening, Buried Narratives and Embodied Resistance, a work that has been published in December last year, and I started this composition in the format of a book around October 2023, so you can already understand that this process has been one of digesting the past 2 years and trying to understand how to put it in words, how to frame what it means to be alive, dying, and transforming right now, facing the extremely challenging context that we are going through, framing it actually in a very soft way right now. We're all being invited by the planet to dig beneath the surface. We're all being invited by the planet to dig beneath the surface. Power over others operates through the surface to create division. Power within, through deep listening, operates through embodiment to refuse the narratives that are here to divide us, to divide and conquer our bodies, our narratives, our stories. We are being invited by the earth to dig beneath the surface. And what is the surface, after all? The surface represents the outermost layer between the initial impression of something or someone and a fuller, more embodied understanding of its depths. The surface offers only a partial narrative, a fragment of the whole, leaving much undisclosed. Generally, the surface aligns with conclusions, rejecting or overlooking the need for more profound encounters and slower interpretations. The surface is a dimension where first impressions can override the complexity of what resides beneath, encouraging conclusions based on what is seen or assumed rather than felt or known. The surface is deceptive. While it flattens what is perceived, it also facilitates interactions where different entities meet, become tangible to one another, and where boundaries are set. Whether nurturing connection or instigating separation, it encapsulates the contours of both the internal and external, the visible and the invisible. The superficiality of the surface can construct artificial borders between ideas, feelings, identities, organisms, sonorities, and vocalities, accentuating a singular viewpoint instead of cultivating embodied participatory relationships with oneself and the environment. Assumptions based on the surface are often tied to the dominance of visual perception, engaging with the world primarily through the sight and intellectual processing. This approach, rooted in the 15th century and modern Western science, has significantly shaped prevailing narratives, emphasizing what is visible and measurable. In a hypervisual culture, the surface becomes a focal point, overemphasizing materiality and neglecting the subtleties and non-visual dimensions of reality. By focusing on the surface, vision reinforces divisions between the observer and the observed, perpetuating narratives based on binaries such as us and them, mind and body, man and woman, black and white, nature and culture, and other dichotomies. This emphasis on the surface is amplified in modern media, where images and stereotypes deepen us versus them thinking. Through selective framing, sensational headlines, and biased narratives, media representations reduce complex identities and social dynamics to shallow labels. In doing so, they shape mainstream discourse and sustain social and political divides, reinforcing the very binaries that limit our conception of self, others, and the world around us. We are being invited by the planet Earth, to dig beneath the surface. We speak because we listen, and we choose to listen because we care. And when we listen, what do we listen to? When we listen, we first start through our body. Our bodies are living archives of knowledges. When we access what's happening within us, we have the opportunity to understand our dreams and our fears, the visions we have for the future, and the challenges we have to achieve them. When we allow ourselves to deep listen to our bodies, in contact with our hearts, we have the opportunity not only to understand who we are in the present, but also how our ancestors paved the path for us to arrive here today. Our ancestors are not only human, our ancestors are more than human too. Our ancestrality is shared beyond our family bonds, reminding us that these narratives have a common root that is the heart of this planet. In these turbulent times, as many turn away from listening, we refuse to follow this indifference. In defiance, we listen deeper, attuning to the tactile sounds, sensations, and reverberations that move through us, from the outside in and the inside out. As structures of domination crumble around and within us, we are called to embrace what unsettles us. Deep listening, we come to realize, is never passive. It activates the entire body. Unlike hearing, which is involuntary, it requires presence, participation, as well as the willingness to reclaim agency and dig beneath the surface. In this process, embodied discomfort engages more than just the ears. It extends through the skin, muscles, nervous system, breath, organs, and ultimately the gut, where instinct and innate knowing reside. The body communicates in various ways, including tension in the muscles, a flutter in the stomach, a quickening of the pulse, or a sigh of release. Immersing ourselves in these sensations, we unveil emotional, physical, and intuitive layers of experience. It may feel like a chill running down the spine, warmth spreading across the chest, or a knot forming in the throat, a reflection of the unspoken, dwelling in the murky parts within us, wanting to be voiced in a world that so often tries to stifle dissent. Whether expressed through tears, laughter, heartbreaks, or the urge to speak up, silence others, or remain quiet, these embodied responses reveal what resides beneath our actions or their absence when confronted with turbulence. They anchor us in the ever-changing realities of the present, connecting past and future, light and shadow. By recognizing these layers of bodily memory, we may uncover a living archive of pain, resilience, joy, dreams, and struggles passed down through generations, both human and more than human. These sensations and responses are not merely personal. They embody knowledges with emancipatory potential, shaped by the lives of those who resisted silencing, transformed, or inflicted oppression before us. When thinking about how systems that operate through power over others, creating division, I believe it's very important to acknowledge that this embodiment is how we allow these powers to control the ways we listen and the ways we speak. That's why the beginning of this work is an invitation to inhabit this that is happening within you and to claim it as a way to move forward, as a step one. So when we listen, what do we listen to? We start listening to our bodies. In the first chapter, I write everything in plural, and I explain that even though I refer to us as a collective body, I am aware that we are plural, that we are different, that we come from different backgrounds, and that we also have different levels of access and privilege that have to be acknowledged in the process of eco-liberation, understanding what are our capacities, who were our ancestors, what level of access and responsibility we have in this fight, and to balance and support each other as a community with this in heart and mind, but starting with the heart. And also, when I'm talking about deep listening, of course, here, as I said, I'm honoring the voices of those who came before us. And through the book I will show after, there are also maps connecting different voices, different references, and also a system of footnotes explaining different concepts and the authors I'm collaborating with. And what is very important for me is that deep listening is perceived as a political and ethical practice. It's not only a practice of, it is also a practice of embodiment and meditation, and it starts with this attunement to the inner world, but it is a preparation to coexist with the world outside of us and to participate. Welcome. And also, with this in heart, understanding that deep listening is a non-ableist practice. So when talking about deep listening and speaking, we are extending the understanding of it beyond orality, encompassing embodied listening and various forms of expression. This includes non-verbal communication, non-human communication, attentiveness to bodily sensations, and the recognition of all the multiple narratives and voices. Knowing that we will fail, because what my conclusion with this work is that no matter how much I try to dig beneath the surface and be as inclusive as I can be, I can never fully grasp the experience of the other. So it is not a work of one person, it is a work of a collective body. Once we arrive in our hearts, we have the opportunity to travel to the heart of the earth. The heart of the earth is where the planetary transition is coming from. Humans, us humans, we're mediating the relationships between the heart of the earth and the heart of the cosmos. With our listening and our voice, we communicate the knowledges that we are receiving coming from these other dimensions that are way bigger than us and where we came from. This is something that I'm sharing here as a very strong belief, but it is something that I have been learning through the past years, mainly by engaging with different multiple indigenous cosmovisions. So this is also something that for me is very important in this work, to acknowledge these voices, my teachers, those who came before us, always remembering that. And again, with as much as we can, like being humble, let's say joining a conversation that we all have to be part of. Because the truth is, doesn't matter, it matters, but it doesn't matter if your ancestor is an oppressor. What matters is how you're gonna break the cycle in the present. So what I understand also the work of digging beneath the surface, instead of judging who we are right now, is more understanding what is the work we're doing through the responsibility that we carry. And reflect on our positionality, knowing also that it is always transforming, right? And arriving in the heart of the earth, we have the opportunity to perceive the planet as a living organism. When we say that our body is a living archive of wisdom and knowledges, and when we also understand that we are the planet, we know that we have access to the living library of wisdom just by practicing deep listening. But it's a practice. It requires, as if you're training a muscle, you need to come back to it. You practice deep listening. It's something that we have to practice, especially because the systems of oppression, they thrive on us not knowing how to do it. They thrive on us being completely disembodied and fragmented from our feelings, our bodies, our subjectivity, our intuition, our capacity to read and understand the language that the planet is speaking right now, that is non-verbal. It can be verbal, but it's going to be translated through your voice as a verb. The earth doesn't speak words. This is our interpretation of it. And reminding that the earth is a living organism, and reminding that ourselves that the planetary transition is a rising from the heart of the earth. It gives us a ground to work with. And for me, what I believe is the third step of this practice of deep listening, after listening to your heart and then the heart of the earth, we are ready or more prepared to perceive one another in our complexity and understand that it is impossible to fully grasp the experience of the other. And then we're gonna work with deep listening through opacity and incomprehensibility. When I am invited to present this work, especially in the context of art book fairs, I have to think about the reason why we document, the reason why we write, the reason why we publish, and I'm always confronted with the power of language, with the power of knowledges in plural. I frame knowledges in plural in this book on purpose. I know this word doesn't exist officially. It is an intentional practice of reminding ourselves of plurality, and also that language can be used either to emancipate or to manipulate. And we have to be aware when we're dealing with this power, when we're receiving information, when we're sharing information, the power we're working with. Because the goal of what we're doing, the focus of what we're doing right now, and I believe this is something we share as a common body, at least in this room, hopefully in the building, hopefully growing into a multidimensional, multicultural, transnational movement, planetary movement of liberation. This is our goal. And this book starts, for context, this book starts, I'm based in Berlin, I'm from Brazil, São Paulo, Brazil, based in Berlin. Moved to Berlin to do my master's degree in the so-called Art and Context Institute in the very renowned University of Berlin University of the Arts. And the Art and Context Institute is the colonial institute of the Berlin University of the Arts. Its mission is to revision historical crimes. And that's what we were doing until the 7th of October. And then the conversation changed, and it was exactly when I needed to write a thesis, and I was working with sound and deep listening, and I needed to explain why do I work with sound and listening, and that's how I started working with this book. And I was seeing live, I was understanding live, mainly coming from the reference figures that are the teachers, that they are not practicing. They are victims. They are allowing the system to disembody them, to fragment their bodies, and they are serving the system after all. And since it's art in context, the first chapter of this book was, listen, the context is still colonial. What are we going to do about it? Because we were very comfortable somehow talking about the past, the past of colonization, as if it's something that didn't exist anymore. It's something that is in the past. And now Germans are comfortable talking about the fact that they colonized Africa and they have to be, they have to do something about it. But what has been revealed to everyone, what is revealed to all of us, is that this world, the imperial world, the word of colonialism, the word of capitalism, the word of patriarchy has been thriving on manipulating all of us through their structures, through their institutions, academia being one of the most important one of them. And I was there not only as a student, I was also teaching in this university. And I started teaching through doing political work in the university, mainly coordinating the Department for Sustainability and Climate Justice. In Germany, it's kind of like a paradox, but the Senate pays students to do political work as a voluntary work, kind of. But when it starts to be, and also this is the thing that on the level of language, on the superficial level of language, we have the Department for Sustainability and Climate Justice, we have the Department for Diversity, for Inclusivity, for the Advanced Technologies, and so on and so on and so on. But when the real thing starts to happen, and we need to talk about the thing that is happening, language is used again to manipulate, and you understand that it's only operating on a superficial level to maintain the appearance of liberation, the appearance of progressive thinking. And the reality of what we see today in New York for sure, and in Berlin for sure, is that the police is in the university, and there's police brutality and silencing and people being persecuted. And I was really scared to come here talk about this book, because I'm like, what is gonna happen? Because I know we're not supposed to be talking about this. They don't want us to listen. They don't want us to learn how to care. They want us to be scared, and they want us to obey. And here we are in the classroom program. So this is the classroom, right? The classroom is normally 4 walls room inside of an institution that has a structure of power dynamics. The teacher normally is sitting in front of us. I'm really sorry for this to be happening here today, right now. If you would come to one of my lectures, this would never, ever happen. We are the same. I'm telling you that your body is an archive of wisdom. I'm not here to tell you what to do. As a teacher, I believe my role would be just to give you the support you need to be who you are, to thrive through your challenges, to create intimacy between us, and to learn how we're gonna refuse the imperial project. This is for me the role of education. How we're gonna build community and learn how to refuse the systems that are operating to destroy life. And this is a question that I'm not here. I wish I had the answer. But I know that this is not something that comes just from one of us. We're all deep listeners, aware or not. We're all learning how to become deep listeners. We're all learning how to keep our hearts open, even when we think or we feel that we can't no longer bear the fucking incoherence, the insanity that is exposed to us. And exactly in that moment, when we think it's impossible to continue, is when we come back to the body, to the practice of deep listening. We rely on the communities that we are building. We remember that we have access to the wisdom that the planet is humbly sharing with us, and we practice. We practice what we listen, and we practice what we preach. we bridge the gaps between theory and action. Because we know that academia, it can be very progressive. We have read all the progressive authors. I read all of them. I was introduced to most of them through academia. And also, for a really long time, I used to love bell hooks, love Audre Lorde. Thank you for all the work you have done. Thank you. The thing for me is that for bell hooks, the classroom is the most powerful ecosystem in the academia for emancipatory knowledge to happen. And it's true partially, because it's still inserted in the frameworks of that institution. That is, either we like it or not, all the institutions, all of them, the museums also, the art book fairs, I'm sorry, we're all trapped. We're all trapped in something that, in a way or another, we benefit from, but we're not considering how this is actually destroying the possibility of the continuity, at least of human life. Of other forms of life, we don't know, but the level of destruction is real, and we can no longer ignore it. That's why I wrote this book. Because if I'm talking about vibration and deep listening, and I am a teacher and I believe in education, I think education is the base of liberation. It's emancipatory education, it's emancipatory knowledge. That's why I'm here now, and I need to also remind myself, because at some point I'm just like, what's the point of doing this? What's the point of talking about it? It feels like we just feel like I feel trapped. I feel trapped in this system. And at the same time, there's this power that trusts, the power of hope and the power of, the same force that refused to be put in a box by those teachers that tried to convince me that it was not fitting to just be who I am. The same force that is refusing to accept shrinking to fit the narrative of the oppressor, this force is the force of life that believes that everything is transforming and acknowledges that this is a moment of collapse. And it has to happen. Honestly, it's good. It's horrible. And first and foremost, free Palestine, and the genocide, and the occupation, and all occupations. And I'm saying this now because I believe the liberation of the Palestinian people means the liberation of all of us. And it's reminding us of that. And at the same time, we're seeing that we're all awakening to the realization that this is happening, and liberation is happening. See the example of Nepal this week, the example of democracy, whatever it means, happening in Brazil with fascist Jair Bolsonaro in jail. It's happening. They all gonna fall. They will fall. We have to trust that. And we have to be together, because it is fucking scary. And it's not easy. And I hope we're also inspired by the younger generations that seem to be at least less afraid of it than us, Maybe we have something also to learn with the younger and younger generations, to have more courage to confront these systems, to have more courage to practice deep listening, because it's not really a very it can be pleasant, but it's mostly very unpleasant practice to actually know your traumas, to know your voice, to own your voice. It's painful. It's not a simple thing, but this is what we're supposed to do. And that's why, again, we have to be in community. I love that I can prepare for this presentation and it makes me nervous, but then when I start to speak, it just comes, and then it's not what I prepared, and it's better. So you have also to trust that we have the knowledge. It's not information. We have the wisdom within us. So I say a little bit now about I talk a little bit about the structure of this work. I structured the work in, let me see, okay. We have six chapters. The first one is, let me read it here. Within us reside depths yearning to be embodied. That is basically how we started this conversation. Then the second chapter is Listen, the context is still colonial, beneath the surface of academia, reminding ourselves that our body is the school, and questioning also the classroom as a place of division. The idea of class is implied within it. So a certain group belongs to it. Not everyone is actually allowed in the classroom. So something to think about. Then I reflect, this is not really a chapter, it's a brief reflection on positionality with cycle breakers. Then I'm gonna discuss a little bit the surface and then what's beneath the surface. What are also the languages and the forms of documenting knowledges that are entangled with the ideas of the surface and what can go beneath it, what we can achieve when we dig beneath the surface. And then it's more about orality, listening, sound, and then also connecting more and more with indigenous and more than human cosmologies. And then if I'm talking about deep listening, I also talk about sonic depths and vibration and sound. And the last chapter is what's dying and what's being born, decay and transformation beneath the surface of life and language. This work has also contributions by Ahmet Öğüt, Kurdish artist that was my teacher, a teacher that always supported this work and also always has been working for liberation through his practice. And Jamila Barakat, German-Palestinian artist friend that I also met in the context of the university. So it is very much based in the relationship between teachers, students, and also the different positionalities of me as a teacher and a student. Yeah, this is the work, and let me see if here you can see that there is a system of footnotes throughout the work. Is the purple text. So throughout the work, you have this like very didactic, let's say, way of like explaining certain topics and why I use certain terminologies. And in between chapters, I also work with this purple pages, inviting a more practical, somatic approach to what you just read. So you read, and then you study a little bit the concepts, and then there's some invitation for you to practice a little bit or take some time. Yeah. show a little bit more. Some maps connecting concepts that I use in the book. Some images. The book is also risoprinted, so it's also a slower process when it comes to producing books. And in the process of digging beneath the surface and acknowledging the connection between our hearts and the heart of the planet, while I dig all the layers of institutions and language and academia and oppression, I arrive in sonic depths. I arrive in the heart of the planet that for me, I wrote this chapter, I was in Sicily, and I was spending a lot of time in Etna, the volcano, and I had this physical feeling, even though like through the practice of deep listening, I believe we can access the heart of the earth in terms of frequency and energy. But for me, volcanoes are almost as if the craters or the magma is giving us or would give us direct access to the core, the heart of the planet, the heart of life. So that's where I arrive when I finish this work. And then, of course, I talk about the nuances between decay, transformation, and decay and destruction, basically, and transformation, yeah. Does anyone have something to say? Is there something that has to be expressed or shared right now?
I have a question around, I'm very moved by how you're thinking about this first step as like listening to oneself, and then before listening to anyone else is listening to the earth. How does commitment to truth and basically understanding what it is that you hear like factor into this perception, this practice of listening? Because I think, especially with some of the, the enemies, the oppressors, but like even if we could get them to listen deeply, it makes me nervous what they would hear, right? And I think that I don't know if you could say a little about how truth factors into this practice, this method.
I think truth first is the idea of true. It's very colonial, let's say. The idea that there's a right way of perceiving things. And I think the measurement would be if this that you're doing is benefiting, who's being benefited by it? Is it an individual? Is it like, how is this impacting actually the overall, because it can be for a collective, but it has to include also the different perspectives and the body of the planet. So I think the process also of connecting the different hearts, you would know if it's actually benefiting life or not, if it is. If it's destroying life, then you know it's not. You're not practicing deep listening, you're just listening to your ego, basically, I would say. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
I think the whole idea of the practice of deep listening is how to learn how to care for life, meaning that you're learning how to care for yourself, you're learning how to care for the planet, and you're learning how to care for others. So I think this makes it very easy actually to understand what are the practices that it's not really about your belief system, it's not really about your faith, it's not really about us suddenly starting to like or want the same things, because the truth is we are different and we will always be different, and there will always be conflict, even when there is a more, let's say, horizontal, careful way of living and practicing life, we're still gonna disagree. So it's not really about knowing what the truth is, but knowing how do we take care of life, I would say. Thank you. Any other voice?
When you were reading from your text, some of the things you were saying were reminding me of psychoanalysis, or psychoanalysis. I was thinking of like how Freud situates consciousness on the surface of the skin. Consciousness is located on the surface of the skin. How Freud is like a famous listener, listening to neurotics, to people who hadn't been listening before. I'm wondering how you situate your work or your thought in relation to that.
To psychoanalysis? I think my practice is more connected with like somatics, or the notion of the body as a like living organism, and the body of the earth as a living organism, and the body of others as a living organism. So, of course, in my personal story, I have I did therapy, but not really psychoanalysis. More, yeah. But definitely there is a lot of this practice of, you can call it therapy, the practice of deep listening too. And for me, it's mainly a practice of understanding your feelings, your emotions, your needs, your boundaries, your dreams. That is mainly the work you do, also with psychoanalysis. It's not really my field, psychology. But I feel intuitively it's something that always permeates my work, because I combine the subjective, the individual, with the collective and the political. So inevitably, I'm also thinking about what's happening in the inner world, let's say. Yeah. Thank you. What is the question?
I guess the question is, can we like listen deeply to like kind of industrial sounds, or like sounds that kind of are less like about the kind of deeper planetary, like natural connection?
Yeah, deep listening is actually not, it is about embracing the complexity in the dichotomy. It's not about pretending that everything is okay. It's actually acknowledging the dichotomy and staying with it, acknowledging the conflict, not really just being everything is okay, everything's gonna be okay. Part of the work is also visualizing and imagining the world that we want to live in, and also removing ourselves a little bit of the reality of destruction and apocalypse and the narrative of apocalypse, and allowing ourselves to dream with the future. That's also how we move forward. But in the present, we need to be aware that there's conflict, there's genocide, there's war, there's destruction in all different levels. There's humanitarian crisis, there is planetary crisis, there's the climate crisis, and it's all intersected. So if you, for example, as an artist, you want to work with sound, and for you, the industrial sounds, they also help you to understand yourself and the world, there's no need for you to hide it, because it's part of your deep listening practice, especially if you live in New York, that there's always going to be noise. So you're not going to just pretend there's no noise. No, you're going to incorporate the noise in your practice. You're going to, first we accept the noise. First we say, okay, it's noisy, it's difficult, it's messy, it's challenging, doesn't feel good. First we understand the conflict, the good parts of it. Let's also not create more dichotomies, maybe not even try to say it's good or bad, but try just to understand what it's doing again for life. Is it taking care of me? Is it taking care of my community? Is it taking care of the planet? Or is it destroying our capacity to regenerate? I think it's like, as an artist also, I really like to work with, for some time in my practice, I thought that if I'm talking about ecology or eco-liberation, I need to work only with organic materials, because that's the solution for the planet. But for me now, it's actually more interesting to also incorporate synthetic materials, because I think that's how we actually understand the dichotomy. So I really appreciate working with chains, with metal, with like thermal blankets, silver, and the soil, and synthetic sand, and the mushrooms, and the plants. Like literally, like this is the image of our planet. It is it's entangled in this and expressed in the complexity of it. Yeah. Okay. No, it's okay, it's totally fine. I have no idea what's happening with the time, but thank you. Thank you everyone for listening, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed and that we can continue this conversation. Yeah, thank you.